Hello, welcome back to another video. You join me at the moment in my garage. It's very cramped, hence why I'm squatting down like this. So today we're going to be painting the rocker cover. So this is the rocker cover off a 1.6. Now I bought this off Facebook Marketplace for about 20 quid. I'm going to go ahead, use a Brillo pad and clean all this up. I might have to sand some bits if it's heavily corroded, but should be okay. And the idea is we're going to paint it up with some VHT Red Wrinkle Paint. So let's jump straight into it. So for the sake of the video, I've actually sped all this up and I've cut off about 20 minutes extra that I was spent sanding, cleaning, more sanding. So I'm starting off, I'm using a wire wheel just to get any gunk out of the lettering. And then I move on to a Brillo pad to clean off any old corrosion that still might be on there. Now after using the Brillo pad for about 20 minutes, I realised I'm going to need something a little bit stronger, so I then moved on to a sandpaper. Again, I did this for a lot longer than shown in the video, but for the sake of the video I decided to cut it out. So here I've got some sandpaper. I'm going over the whole thing, just getting any corrosion that is left on there. So I got most of the corrosion off now. I just wanted to use a wire wheel on a drill to basically go around all of the little nooks and crannies, because the last thing I wanted was when I applied the primer, I didn't want there to be any bits left over in all the little corners. Okay, so I've cleaned it up the best I can. Still a little bit I need to do, but I'm going to wipe it down with some panel wipe, and then we're going to prime it with some Etch primer. So I'm just wiping down the rocker cover now with some panel wipe, ready for the prime. So I've moved the car out the garage and I've put some masking tape in all the holes so that I don't want paint to go on. Started off with a nice light coat, then I waited about 20 minutes and then come back, blast it with a little bit more of a heavy coat so it's nice and smooth. So here we have it. We've painted the rocker cover in a nice grey primer. This is an Etch primer, so it should dig into that metal nicely and resist chipping. So we can now move on to the top coat, but we've got to wait 24 hours for this to dry. Okay, sorry about the light in here, the garage light isn't too great, but the next step, we've got this VHT Wrinkle Paint. I've had this for about 6 months, never actually used it, so I'm going to double check the instructions, but I'm pretty sure you just paint it on like normal paint. I think you do one heavy coat one way, one heavy coat the other way, and it's supposed to sort of like give you a wrinkle effect. So we've done the primer, got to wait 24 hours for this to harden, so it digs into the metal. But once that's hardened, we'll come back and we'll apply this one. So it says on the back of the can to make sure you do heavy coats, so you want to do a cross hatch pattern. So I'm going to do it a little bit heavier this time, going this way. Okay, so that's coat number 2, going that way, and I've applied that a lot more heavy. I've tried to vary the way the paint is applied, so hopefully we get a good wrinkle effect. 5 more minutes and we'll put the third coat on. So it's been 24 hours since I've applied the top coat, and I've made a massive cock up. So it hasn't wrinkled very well and it's still a little bit shiny. Now I'm looking at the instructions on the can, and it says after 5 minutes of the 2 coats, you should then bake it in an oven. Now I ain't got an oven big enough for this. I've been doing some research online, and apparently a heat gun will be good enough. So I got to do another coat, and then we're going to use the heat gun to hopefully get that good wrinkle effect. This is how not to paint your rocker cover. Okay, so it's been 24 hours now, so the effect is a lot nicer this time around. So the first time it was very glossy when I let it just air dry. I didn't read the tin properly, and you need to apply heat. So that's either in an oven, or I actually used a heat gun on the max setting, and I went over it for about half hour, 20 minutes. Now the wrinkle effect is quite subtle, but the colour has gone nice and matte. Now to get a more wrinkled effect, I think I needed a heavier coat, and I needed a lot more heat for maybe longer. So I used the heat gun for about 20 minutes, going all over. And obviously because it's metal, it did heat up quite a lot. But the problem is, I don't think I put enough of a heavy coat on. Because I messed up the first coat, I didn't want to put too much of a heavy coat, because then there'd be about 4 coats of paint on there. So I'm actually really happy with the effect. It's nice, it's got like a nice little rough texture to it. The next step, what I need to do is fill these recessed letters in. So I've got a blunt nose syringe, which I'm going to use some black gloss engine enamel. I'm going to fill these in, and I've taken that idea from another YouTube channel. So I just thought I'd bring it into some natural light, because in the kitchen and garage it's a bit artificial, so you can see the effect on it a bit easier here. So it's a very matte paint, which I like. Now if I were to do this again, I'd have a bit more experience with getting a better wrinkle effect, but overall it's quite nice. That's what it looks like anyway. So that's after 24 hours with the paint to dry. I'm going to leave it another 24 hours before any assembly, but first I need to finish these letters off, so I'll go ahead and do that next. So it's time to do the recessed lettering. Now I've picked up some Etch engine enamel, so this stuff is good for like 250 degrees, so I wouldn't go ahead and use normal paint because it'll probably just all crack off. So this is gloss black. It is available in other colours. So we've got our paint. And then we've got a syringe from eBay, and this is a blunt tip, so it's not sharp and going to stab me. So that's the lettering complete. It's a lot harder than it looks. I did actually mess up on the M over here, but I used a little bit of white spirit on a cotton bud and just wiped that back, and it looks okay. So from a distance it looks alright. So I'm going to have to leave this to dry now for quite some time. But overall I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so we're finished pretty much. So I don't know if you can see the lettering on there. I'm going to have to wait probably 24 hours for this paint to fully dry, because I think it does need to cure. But overall, I think I'm happy with it. I think if I were to do this again, however, I'd probably go for a black rocker cover. I think it's a little bit more classier. This is a little bit ricer, being, you know, so red, but when I get all the little extra bits on the oil cap, it might actually look a lot nicer. But overall I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. This ain't going to go on the car for a little while now. I have got to do some other service parts on the engine, so this will be probably the last thing to go on. So thanks for watching. Again, check out some of my other videos with the MX5.